Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Vikings Latest. I'm your host, Cole Smith, and today we dig deeper into the Nolan Teasley hire. He was officially hired and officially named as the next Vikings general manager on Monday. We'll go over what the next steps are for that. We're also going to dig deeper into Teasley's background, also his mentor's background, see if we can't find any parallels between that, see if we can't put any of our concerns, kind of put those at ease if there are any right now among some of the skeptics. But first, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. Get all the updates 5 days a week uh, during not only OTAs, not only during the general manager hiring process, but all throughout the offseason and into football season, which is only 2 months away. We're 2 months away from preseason football, which I actually get a little bit excited for until the games actually start being played. But follow along for all that. Hit the subscribe button, and we will keep you up to date with all things Vikings. But first, like I said, officially named Vikings GM on Monday. The Vikings started releasing statements and everything from the Wilfs, from Kevin O'Connell about their excitement about Nolan Teasley. The Wilfs mentioned not only their excitement about Teasley working with Kevin O'Connell, but also with Rob Brzezinski, who, as we all know, was in the running for the permanent GM job. He had been the interim GM essentially since the end of January when the Vikings fired Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. Rob Brzezinski is still going to have a big say in all Vikings decisions, personnel decisions, as is Kevin O'Connell. And people are wondering exactly what that dynamic's going to look like. Can the Vikings can Teasley and O'Connell coexist within that structure? And I think that there are reasons to believe that they can, because I don't think Teasley is completely new to that kind of dynamic. So we will get a press conference at 10 o'clock a.m. on Wednesday. Should be able to kind of, I don't know if we're going to get like a bunch of stuff cleared up, because sometimes Kevin O'Connell can say a lot of stuff and not really answer anything. So I don't know if we're going to get something like that, but we should get some clarity on some of these things. I think that as far as personnel moves, it's still going to be really hard to see exactly who's pulling the strings on these things until we start seeing several transactions over the course of several months, maybe over the course of a year, and all that as well. Obviously, a lot of the transactions have already been done. With free agency essentially over, we're going to have some post June 1 stuff happening too. But the heavy lifting of free agency and obviously the draft are over. So Nolan Teasley, I don't think we're going to feel his impact anytime really soon, but we'll start to see how they kind of who's pulling the strings more maybe as the season approaches. Definitely next off season for sure. So what I want to go over today is kind of Teasley's background, kind of his upbringing into the NFL, and there are some concerns just by looking just at his job titles about what he can do in the draft. So he joined the Seahawks in 2013 as an intern in the scouting department. And then in 2014 and 2016, he was a pro personnel scout. He was assistant director of pro personnel in 2017, director of pro personnel from 2018 to 2022, then assistant GM since 2023. So some people look at that and they're like, well, he hasn't been an assistant director or director of college scouting in that time. Like, can he actually manage a draft? Can he actually draft well? And when you start digging a little bit deeper, you can start to kind of connect the dots a little bit that he has been around that. It's not like he was completely closed off from college scouting throughout his time with the Seahawks. So, like on the Seahawks website, it says that he helps with the implementation of the use of data with scouting processes. Doesn't specifically say whether or not that's pro scouting or college scouting, but you can kind of assume that it's probably both ish, because of and also in the notes is that he manages ongoing communication between scouting, research, and analytics departments. Kind of meshing all that stuff together is kind of really difficult to do. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, he really struggled with that. On top of already not having the strongest football background and upbringing, he also wasn't very good at communicating. And when you can't do either of those super well, You start to lose a lot of credibility within the organization. So it sounds like Nolan Teasley, he has experience at least communicating between all three of those departments. Still doesn't really say college scouting, but I doubt that he's only handling like pro scouting, and then he's like, well, I don't talk to the college scouts or anything. So makes me think that he hasn't been completely shut off. I did hear he had his fingerprints kind of all over the draft since 2023, especially. Kind of makes sense because he was assistant GM since then. Uh, Really, it's more just trying to see like, can we dig deeper and see if just how much his impact is on these, because everybody's going to try to make it sound like these guys are like you just never really know like where the line's drawn. Like John Schneider's the one pulling the triggers, but how much influence has Teasley had on all of them, and can he have that kind of influence even if he isn't holding like college scouting, college director type of role? So I tried looking into his mentor, John Schneider, his old boss with the Seahawks. Tried seeing if his upbringing could kind of give us any insight into whether or not Teasley is equipped or could be equipped to handle additional responsibilities as full-time GM. John Schneider, he has been one of the most well-respected GMs since being hired by the Seahawks in 2010. Seahawks have won two Super Bowls in that time. They've only had one losing season since 2012, which was that was Russell Wilson's first season. That was our introduction to the Legion of Boom, and then 1 year later, they won the Super Bowl. Now, with that being said, I wanted to kind of look and see like how Schneider got to there, because before a few weeks ago, before knowing much about Teasley, I didn't know a whole lot about Schneider outside of he's been with the Seahawks. Like I knew that, I didn't know much about Schneider before then. So Schneider, he learned under Ron Wolf with the Packers. Schneider's first gig in the NFL was as a scout with Green Bay from 1993 to 96. Won a Super Bowl after the 96 season. Then he became Chiefs Director of Pro Personnel from 97 to 1999. And then he moved to Seattle, followed Mike Holmgren, who was with the Packers in his first four seasons. Followed Mike Holmgren to the Seahawks in 2000, vice president of player personnel in 2001 with Washington. He rejoined Marty Schottenheimer, who had been with the Chiefs during his stint with the Chiefs. And then he went back to Green Bay for the final 8 seasons. Is that the math? That's a mathing. Final 8 seasons before joining the Seahawks. Schneider was with Green Bay. He was top personnel aide to the GM, which was technically Mike Sherman uh, from 2002 to 2004, and then Ted Thompson from 2005 to 2009. I think they even gave him the director of football operations in 2008 and 2009. So looking just at that, there isn't anything that's really explicitly saying college scout for or college scouting for Schneider. I'm guessing he probably had some sort of college intuition or something when he was a scout with the Packers during that first stint. But like I said, you start looking at player personnel, pro personnel. It nothing explicitly saying college makes me think that if Schneider was able to navigate that and become really good at drafting with the Seahawks, maybe Teasley is capable of that too. So with Schneider learning under like Ron Wolf has like his own insane executive front office, general manager tree, if you will. John Dorsey, who used to be GM with the Browns and Chiefs, he learned under him. Reggie McKenzie, he was GM for the Raiders for a while. He learned under him. Elliot Wolf, Ron's son, he's GM or acting GM, whatever. He's in charge of personnel with the Patriots right now. So, very well respected tree. John Schneider came out from under that tree because people are only looking at kind of Ted Thompson, who he learned under, who Ted Thompson was very well respected as well. But it goes even further beyond that. It goes to Ron Wolf, who, like I said, very well respected within the scouting community, within the front office community. And John Schneider, who is Nolan Teasley's mentor, learned under him. So hopefully that helps kind of give some peace of mind that, you know, Teasley kind of learned from somebody who already learned from the best. Schneider's one of the best now too, and Teasley learned underneath him as well. This also means that Schneider he oversaw the fallout, the Brett Favre fallout from 2008, when Brett Favre came out of retirement and the Packers moved on with Aaron Rodgers. Then Schneider, to a lesser extent, he moved on from Russell Wilson after the 2021 season into the 2022 season. That's kind of what jump started the Seattle rebuild. Teasley was in the room for that. He saw that too, even if he wasn't like the main guy doing it. I did hear that Nolan Teasley did play a pretty big role in facilitating that trade, in making that trade work. Remember, before Russell Wilson arrived in Denver, people still thought he was a really good quarterback, and then Seattle got not only a good return for Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson then just really sucked for Denver. So great foresight um, by Seattle on that part, and it sounds like Teasley kind of played a role in that, and that might have also been helped by the fact that John Schneider had seen a similar situation in Green Bay in his time. So that makes me think that there could be a way for uh, just connecting those dots. I think that Teasley will be equipped to handle college scouting just because it seems like John Schneider did pretty well, despite not really having much of his own college scouting title before that. So one other thing with Schneider that I found interesting, even though he was GM, he has been GM with the Seahawks since 2010. 2010 is when Pete Carroll was hired to be the Seahawks head coach. Uh, Pete Carroll also had significant say on the final roster, and that's what Kevin O'Connell is probably going to have. Is probably going to have a significant say on the final roster because Kevin O'Connell played a large role in the hiring of Nolan Teasley. He had a previous relationship with John Schneider himself, which meant that he was able to get to know Teasley, even if they never directly worked together in the league. So Schneider working with Pete Carroll all those years, that means that Teasley was able to see how a GM works with a hard-headed coach. Like Pete Carroll was a very good coach anyway before he was with the Raiders, and guy with an opinion. He has a vision. John Schneider has a vision. Pete Carroll has a vision, and you somehow mesh those together, make those work together, and they're able to create the Legion of Boom. You get Russell Wilson. You get all these player acquisitions over the years, and then you not only win that time with Pete Carroll, but then you also rebuild and then make it work with Mike McDonald, which doesn't really play as much of a role into this Kevin O'Connell thing as much as Nolan Teasley saw John Schneider coexist with the head coach, making personnel decisions in coexisting. So it's not like this would be like a completely off the wall dynamic that Teasley just has no experience handling or witnessing. He's seen it. He was even assistant GM in Pete Carroll's final season with the Seahawks. So, as well as all that other previous time within the organization. So he's seen how a GM and a head coach can coexist. I guess that Pete Carroll left after Teasley's first year as assistant GM, but you know what I'm saying. He's seen how it can work. Sometimes seeing a negative experience can uh, help you learn and how to deal with a similar experience and make it positive because you see how things are not supposed to be done. Also, think Kevin O'Connell probably a little bit more open to things than Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll would just get his son, family members hired onto the coaching staff. As of right now, I don't think Kevin O'Connell has old enough children to hire onto the coaching staff. It's kind of like the triangle of authority from 20 years ago with Brad Childress and Rick Spielman and Rob Brzezinski. Some people are concerned that we're getting a repeat of that with Kevin O'Connell, Teasley, and Brzezinski. But Brad Childress, he was not known for having people skills before, during, or after his time with the Vikings. Kevin O'Connell, say what you will about him, much more personable than Brad Childress. Not a very high bar to clear, but I do know that Kevin O'Connell is a pretty personable head coach. Hopefully, he is able to coexist with Teasley, and hopefully, Teasley is willing to listen to a guy who helped get him hired, even though Teasley is still probably, like, I'd assume at this rate, technically above O'Connell, even though I think O'Connell has a ton of say in the organization still as well. So it's going to be interesting. These are questions that we're going to probably have kind of answered during the press conference this week. But then, like I said, we really won't know until we start seeing some of these transactions play out to who's really at the helm, who's really making these moves, who's really pulling the strings behind the scenes. As of right now, I have reason to believe that Teasley will be able to manage and handle a dynamic power structure where he shares a lot of the power with a head coach who may or may not be under him. And with that, I think that previous experience should help him, and I think that Kevin O'Connell, hopefully, is more receptive to him, able to listen to ideas of somebody who has a traditional football background. I don't think Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah really ever got himself into good standing with the coaching staff after that first draft back in 2022. I don't think things can get much worse, and hopefully, because of that, everybody is able to get along and help the Vikings start to develop a roster that can, contend not only for a playoff spot or one playoff win, but hopefully return to the Super Bowl, because we're going on 50 years of no Super Bowl appearances. I'd love to see the Vikings not only in a Super Bowl, but also win one in my lifetime. Hopefully, everybody being able to coexist. Nolan Teasley, Kevin O'Connell, Rob Brzezinski. Hopefully, they're able to bring their vision together, make that on field product better, and finally deliver the championship that me and you guys are all hoping for. So that's all I got for you guys today. I hope that you guys enjoyed the show. We will see if there's any other news that comes out tomorrow. If there is, we will cover it. If not, we'll keep diving more into this Teasley stuff, as well as some more Kevin O'Connell stuff and some other OTA notes as well. So that's all I got for you guys today on Vikings Latest. Skol Vikes.